Time keeps on coming. I've been all around. I'll keep on running till time catches on. I've been on the run.
All rise. Welcome everybody. This is gonna be a fun one. This is what we're gonna do, probably in this order. And we'll start off like we normally do with a reflection. And I think Caroline's gonna do it.
I hope so.
Okay, yes.
Someone else can read this.
Hey, girl. And this is.
So instead of my normal grace, I thought I would give a reflection today. Interestingly enough, I wanted to read a quote from President Gerald Ford. Truth is the glue that holds government together, not only our government, but civilization itself. So today I pray for truth. Thank you.
All right, in lieu of our regular Pledge of Allegiance, we have a special treat. So please remain standing.
There, face, Gary, colors, ready, cut, reason, colors.
Follow me, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gary, colors, ready, cut, clear, face, forward, march.
Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy your lunch.
Forgot something. Wasn't I supposed to come up?
Well, I said right afterwards. So you're up now, Peggy. Yeah. So, but no, I meant to them. So the teacher's taking them out to lunch. So we'll allow you to address, and then we're going to do our four. You know what? Can we just do the four-way test real quick? That way everyone can sit down. All right. Four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Please sit. All right. You want a mic? Gotta get back.
Okay, everybody. I just asked our veneered president if I could have a couple minutes to start before the meeting. And I'd like to call up my compatriots. They're all Rotarians. Ellen Brown, John, and Wendell. And then I'm going to call somebody else up after I've talked about these three folks. Some of you may know, some may not, about the tiny house project in South Harrisburg. We started working on that about 5 years ago? And Ellen approached me at lunch, at Rotary lunch one time, and said, we're looking for property in South Harrisburg, or not South Harrisburg, in the city of Harrisburg, for a project. And I said, well, tell me about the project. And she did. And so I said, get in my car. And we drove down to the land that I owned south of the PennDOT building. And 5 years later, almost to the day, on June 6th, It opened and welcomed 11 people whose lives hopefully will be changed. They were veterans that were either homeless or nearly homeless that needed services to help them bridge the gap to coming back to society. So it started a project that was created by Mr. Zimmerman and his wife, and it was a dream. And I know what it was like to have a dream a long time ago, and I try to help other people have dreams. And in this case, this all happened because of Rotarians and the networking. From Ellen came John, who is a board member for VOPA, and that's what this is called, Veterans of Reach of Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Pennsylvania.
Okay. I am not involved in the day-to-day, but I was involved in the construction and the fundraising, et cetera. I donated the land, and there's a piece of land I made them take that was a quitclaim deed for the Harrisburg Authority. Harrisburg Authority never gave access to that piece of land, so it is, you know, which I could have pushed to have happen, but I never did. Long story short, is behind the sewer sanitation center. So I figured I'm never going to sell this. I've been paying taxes on it for almost 30 years. VOPA has to take this. If they're taking the other, they have to take that too. And I said, I'll buy you some boats. And you can have the guys that when they need time out can go over there and look at the vegetation that is wild, that's been there for a long time, or the birds or whatever. And perhaps maybe it can be sustainable food in the future if you get that far and have the time to do that kind of thing. So they got some land, but with some baggage. Then John Wendell's in between, but I'm going to talk about him last because he came after VOPA and before Tunnels to Towers. Tunnels to Towers is in the process of getting approval for the project. And when it goes before Harrisburg City Council, I'm going to ask some of you to come and be supportive of the program. And you'll know why in the coming weeks that I give you more information about it. Tunnels to Towers, I'm going to let John talk directly about that. He approached me well after the VOPA project was underway, and he knew there was more land available. Well, first they wanted 7 acres, I think it was, and I made them take 8.5. Because I would have ended up with a strip of land in between these 3 projects. Wendell's project is a bridge, similar to the Bridge to Hope project. It's called Eden Village, and it's affordable housing, and I'll let him talk about that too, just real briefly. So thumbnail sketch, John.
So thanks, Peggy. I was cajoled into this position as a board member at VOPA through this Rotary connection. Ellen came to me because they did not have past experience with board service and nonprofit work. Peggy has done the lion's share, giving us the land, paying to bring the utilities down, and helping us get RACB money from the Commonwealth. She is and fighting with the Greenbelt. She has definitely been our angel investor. We also went to Tunnel to Towers, which you may or may not know about. A lot of people do. They advertise quite heavily. They give away between $250 and $300 million a year. So they are very well funded. So if you're giving, VOPA needs your money. They don't. Just letting you know. What about their?
Yes.
Tunnel to Towers is founded by the family of Stephen Siller, who was a firefighter in Lower Manhattan on 9/11, who had gone home to play golf with 4 of his 7 siblings and heard that one of the towers had been hit and tried to turn around and come back through the Brooklyn Tunnel. It was closed, so he put on 60 pounds of firefighting gear and ran 3.5 miles to his death, basically. He went up in one of the towers. So his family that day decided to form a foundation to do some good in his name. And, you know, they've really obviously done a tremendous job. Mostly what they do is pay off the mortgages of catastrophically injured first responders. They added in Gold Star families and injured veterans. And 2 years ago, they decided to end homelessness among veterans. That's their stated goal. We went to them to meet with them to talk about funding VOPA. At the time, it would have required, their model is a little different from our model, and it would have required us to back up for 2 years to get a whole new set of approvals. So we just kept moving forward. But I kept that on the back burner to talk to them about maybe they would be phase 2. What VOPA does is a therapeutic community to try and help people recover to a point where they can move on to the next phase of their life, get from being on the street to this next phase of being ready for something else. That's what Tunnel to Towers will be. It's transitional and even permanent housing for veterans, depending on your age and circumstance. It is affordable housing. They will take some money from folks based on their income as a percentage of their income. But again, they will take people down to having no income. They're talking about building 90 units. It's going to be like a hotel with a suites hotel, basically, and then larger tiny homes, 500 square foot tiny homes that they call comfort homes, that will be there for veterans who will never be going back to work. Veterans who are, you know, Vietnam era folks that are in their 60s and stuff who won't be going back to work. And they're pretty close. They've got their plans and they just need to get through city council. So that's where we stand today, is that, and then Eden Village will be in between the two. So if you haven't seen where VOPA is, it's south of the PennDOT building, just above where the exit of the Paxton Creek is. And then there's, it'll be Eden Village, then the most northern part will be the Tunnel to Towers project.
Wendell?
Sure. Eden Village is we're gonna have about 6 acres. We'll have about 30 homes. They're tiny homes. This is permanently affordable housing, so they'll pay $350. Single people, they can live there per month, and they can live there as long as they want. And this has been done about 5 times around the country, and so we're following that model. And we're grateful for Peggy to have the land, and just 3 different projects dealing with homelessness. If you haven't driven down to PennDOT anytime recently, do that. It'll be eye-opening to see Tent City and how much it's grown over the weeks and months.
It's very close. In fact, the borderline for the Alex Grass Trust, which is called Phoenix Trust, is adjacent to the southernmost border of Shipoke. And there are a lot of problems that the Shipoke is contending with as a direct result of that. And they also have a lot of support systems through the churches in Harrisburg. So it's been very difficult to, and people from Baltimore, people come here from Baltimore and Philadelphia, DC, they're giving one-way tickets to Harrisburg. So.
In any event, on this Veterans Day, I'd like to again thank Peggy for the generous gift that she's done to help our veterans experiencing homelessness in the Harrisburg region, both with the Tunnel to Towers project and with Veterans Outreach and other folks experiencing homelessness through the Eden Village project.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask Andy to come up front and I'll take questions if I can answer them. One of these 3 can. Yeah. No, not yet, but I will certainly translate that to everybody. And I'm also working with Greenbelt to find another avenue. And I will give them a donation to help them to do so. So.
My understanding is there's going to be 2 city council meetings. One is just for the land subdevelopment plan. And then there will be a meeting to talk about the land subdivision. And then
But they haven't been scheduled yet.
I think the subdivision plan is scheduled.
it?
The other one hasn't been scheduled, but that one should be perfunctory. It's just saying, can you carve it into 3 parcels?
Okay.
And with regard to the Greenbelt, my understanding from the Tunnel to Towers folks is that they have reached an agreement with the Greenbelt folks. Doug Hill from the Greenbelt Association and Tunnel to Towers have agreed to use Peggy's alternate route. They just need to communicate that to City Council because that's been the sticking point through the approval process.
For the whole thing.
Previous.
Yep. And I gave, to give a little history, I gave the Greenbelt permission to use the property for 30 years without a penny. And I paid for the liability insurance because they said they couldn't get it, et cetera. And it's been difficult. So anyway, last but not least, Andy has agreed, once the tunnel to towers has gotten approval through city council, he's agreed to do a billboard.
For a good time, call Peggy.
That's all I need.
Her phone number, big and bold.
I need. So is it, John, I assume you don't have a date? Dates for the city council is yet?
And maybe they meet tomorrow. I don't know if it's, I think it's on the agenda.
But we don't need people for that.
I haven't heard about a date yet. I asked another Rotarian, Pete Grossman, has been doing the legal work for both entities. So.
I didn't include him because he's a hired attorney. And not that I have prejudice against attorneys, but. All right, Ed Black also did the planning, and there are a lot of other people that are well-known names in town that came together as a direct result of all these Rotarians. And the reason I asked to have time to talk to you today is because this is a form of networking for Rotarians, and this is a huge project. We are going to be on the map for the entire country with this. And so it just wouldn't have happened had it not been for all of us being members of Rotary. Thank you.
All right. Before we get started, it is Veterans Day, so please, if you would, if you are a veteran, please stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. We did that. We're gonna do a quick fellowship. So pretend you're standing like we were and go around and shake hands and stuff. You got 5 minutes to do it. All right, I've said hi to a lot of guests already. I know we have some new members here. We have Matt from the West Shore Club here. Thank you. Welcome. We're going to skip our traditional, more in-depth introduction of guests so we can make time for our speaker. Before we do announcements, Jill and Jimena, would you guys like to come up here? Oh, I need the photo of this. We're going to do a little flag exchange. Just so you know, we have a new flag. Wait, let's see. Trying to get into this tradition a little bit more. Do you want to come up here? So I'll hold your flag, you hold my flag. All right, let's rifle through these announcements. Central Penn Food Bank, and guess what? You can find all this information on Club Runner. You could Google Harrisburg Rotary, and you can find everything all the way through June of next year. Some of these other details, we're going to be doing the Be the Light Salvation Army thing next week. We're decorating the tree, and then there's a actual celebration on Thursday night. All of those details are where? Yes, Club Runner. And the foundation dinner was this past Saturday. I was in attendance with Kara, and we got an award for our efforts to raise money for polio and the eradication of polio. So that's cool. I have the award if anyone wants to see us back there. So this is Ruby here today? I don't think I saw her. So Ruby Dow was one of our more recent members, and I don't know how she got this information because I wasn't privy to it. But our zone, not our club, not our district, but our zone does what I'm told is an unbelievable new member orientation. So much so that even seasoned Rotarians that attended are like kind of wowed. There's a lot of stuff we do outside this club, outside of our district, in our whole world. It's next Wednesday. Details, yes, they're in Club Runner. There's a Zoom link. I would highly encourage new members and seasoned members to attend. I hear it's awesome. I will be on that call. So, where's Anna? Woo! She's up. She's got 3.2 minutes. Actually, you got a few minutes. Sure. Sorry. Second.
Yeah, that's probably good. All right. I did not want to do this for the record. I thought my public speaking career was done, but Carly kind of hounded me down, and here I am because I've been a member for probably 2 years now. And anyway, my name is Anna Myers. For those of you who I have not met yet, I work for Commonwealth Charter Academy, CCA, which is right next to the farm show. Want to start out by thanking our veterans. Thank you so much. I come from a military family in Brazil, so have a lot of appreciation for everything that you've done for us in keeping our freedoms in this country. So a little bit about CCA. We're a cyber charter school, so our students go to school either synchronously or asynchronously. They can kind of move at their own speed if they so choose. We have a variety of students that come to us for a number of reasons, and we've seen tremendous growth in the past 5 years since COVID started. I've been there for 4 years. When I started with CCA, we had about 12,000 students and 500 employees. Today we are at 31,000 students. We just hit that last week, and over 2,300 employees. So our students come from all over the state. They're located all over the state. We have offices all over the state. Next year, we're going to hit 25 offices because we want our students and our families to be able to come in person for supports and services. So that's just a tiny little bit about CCA. I'm a senior vice president of community and alumni relations there. So I'm out and about in the community all the time, raising awareness about CCA. And I've got 4 people that report to me from all over the state and do the same job that I do. Now about me, which I find totally weird because I typically don't talk about myself, but I was born and raised in Brazil, in Rio. I came here in 1986 when I was in high school, so I'm totally dating myself now. And immigrated with my family. We came here with absolutely nothing, and I'm very proud of that. Just suitcases. We left everything behind. My dad had a dream to move to this country. He wanted us, my brother and I, to grow up here and get the opportunity of living in the United States. And so we did it. It was hard. It was difficult to say the least at first. When we first arrived, my dad lost his job and, I was still in high school. I couldn't work because of the visa requirements. But anyway, I ended up applying to Baylor University, not sure how I was going to pay for it, but through literally a miracle of God, I was able to get a private grant. Somebody paid for my school. So, and I was debt free when I graduated. It was absolutely amazing, and I'm forever going to be thankful to this individual. I was a marketing international business major because I speak Portuguese and Spanish. So I thought, I'm going to travel the world, and I worked for American Airlines and I worked for Nickelodeon Latin America, and it was great until I started having children. And I have 4 kids. They are all up there. So this is my daughter, Anna Sophia. She went to Pitt. She is flight attendant out of DC for American Airlines. My son Nicholas over there, he just graduated from West Point, the military academy. He is in Oklahoma for training. And he'll be in Fort Campbell, Kentucky after he goes to Ranger School. This is my son Lucas. He always said he was going to go to the military academy, but he actually got into MIT. And when that happened, he decided, I'm going to do ROTC at MIT. So he's also going to be a second lieutenant upon graduation. And then that's my little girl, Francesca. She's at Trinity High School. She scoops ice cream across from the mall on the West Shore. So at Brewster. So if you stop over there, tell her you know me. And then I am second marriage. My husband is a former state trooper. He's retired. He's also former military. He's got 2 children. So we're truly the Brady bunch. And what else did I want to share with you? Yeah, I'm super proud of my kids. They are number 1 in my life. That is the greatest achievement I have. Raising them, I think they turned to the military because I always said this country made me who I am, and it's because of America that we have what we have. When we immigrated here, we did not know what was going to happen, how we were going to turn out. And I always tell my kids, I said, we have what we have because we worked really hard here, right? But they didn't. Anyway, they are sort of working hard now. But I wanted them to understand that it didn't come easy, and not everybody has the same opportunities that they have had. So anyway, so I'm super proud that they went into the military, and we'll see what happens with that. Community is super important to me. And, I think I have the job that I have because when I moved here, my parents had to use somebody else's address for me to be able, my brother and I, to be able to attend a good high school in California. So when I went back to work, my family sits around the Thanksgiving table and talks politics all the time because we immigrated, so we don't all agree. And when I went back to work after raising my kids, I was like, I want to do something more meaningful. I don't want to just work for corporate America. So I got involved in political campaigns, and one thing turned into another, and I ended up volunteering to raise awareness about school choice in Pennsylvania. And this was back in 2010. So, and ever since then, I've been doing that because I honestly believe every child deserves the opportunity of a quality education. And I'm not anti-school district at all. I think children are different. I have 4 of my own. 2 went through public school, 2 went to Catholic school. So it just really depends on the child and what the caregiver believes is right for them. So I made it my quest to pursue school choice here in PA, ran the Charter School Association for 4 years, and then turned over to CCA where I am. So to me, it's more than just a job, right? I just want to see as many kids as possible thrive because they are the future of our state, the future of our country. So finally, I'm involved in the community. I'm a board member for the Latino Hispanic Professional Association of Central Pennsylvania. I'm a board member with the Greater Lehigh Valley Hispanic Chamber. I work closely with the Hispanic community because, they need the education, they need to assimilate, they need help. So that's another passion of mine. I'm in several committees. I'm in the planning committee for the Joshua Group Gala. We just had the gala last week. It was wonderful. Carlisle Chamber Government Affairs Committee, Leadership Harrisburg Alumni Committee, and the Harrisburg Chamber Women in Business Committee, which I love. So that's just a little bit about me. Thank you. I did not want to do this, but it's done.
Well, for not wanting to do it, you crushed it. So thank you very much for that. And we always learn a lot. So on to our featured speaker. Where's he at? All right, well, John, you're going to do the introduction. The floor is yours, and good luck.
And and I just want to say your son, Lucas, is great.
You know?
Really good guy. Really good. A few months ago, an article caught my attention. It discussed AI and the implications of the United States readiness to address AI in the future. And so when the opportunity presented itself earlier this month to find a speaker to consider that, I reached out to a friend of mine who you may not know directly, but Bill Sparr's son, Tom Sparr, is a colonel, retired at the War College. Bill was a member of the Harrisburg Rotary for years. And he introduced me to Kyle Yanowski. Kyle's a colonel at the War College and specializes in understanding the implications of virtual reality and what we're doing with it to assist in the future of the military. A very important ingredient in terms of what's going on with AI. As you likely know, the War College in Carlisle has been educating leaders for our military for years. 1919 it started in Carlisle, and at some point, many of the colonels, generals either were educated there and or educated others there. When someone like Lieutenant Colonel Yanowski, Kyle as I refer to him, goes to consider applying to the War College, they're doing it out of both their interest in lifelong learning, but also against fierce competition that others equally qualified can do. Now, Kyle started off as a U.S. Army Ranger, 101st Airborne platoon leader, so he had a good start on that after college. He then continued doing a number of things that you would appreciate. 2 master's degrees. One, he's a Purdue Boilermaker.
Boiler up.
Exactly. And your echo? He attended the U.S. Command Staff College as well, got a master's degree there. But he honed it to a T when he was at Fort Leavenworth, where he became the director of the U.S. Army University Simulation Department. Now, here's the kicker. What is not noted in his stellar resume is how he got to think about AI and virtual reality. And this is where the game, how many of you participated in the game Doom? You know, that it was a shoot-up game in the 1990s. Any? Yeah, okay. One taker on this. This is where Kyle started his love of essentially virtual reality, right? Now, here's what I will say that Tom mentioned to me. After I sent Tom the note introducing Kyle, which I just provided, he sent me a note. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend. My admiration for Kyle has grown immensely since I first introduced you to him about a month and a half ago. So let's give it up to Kyle. And here's the proof. So when you need to tell Tom you're committed to delivering on that.
It's good. When my next grade is due, I'll wave this in front of them. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. I am not a Rotarian, but I know about all the good work that the Rotary Club of Harrisburg does for this community, as well as Rotary clubs across the nation and really the world. So I'm honored and humbled to be here to talk to you today about one of my passions, and that's a technology called extended reality. I'm going to do my best to limit the amount of Army acronyms that we use because we love to do that in the Army. And I'm going to try and tell this tale of technology through a story. The Army, believe it or not, last year had a budget of about $186 billion. It's billion with a B. So there's a lot of different areas, a lot of stories to tell within the dark recesses of the Army that you may or may not be aware of. We all see the movies about normal stuff, battles, wars, things. But there's a lot of capacity to talk about innovation in technology. So I really want to talk about three things. One, I'm going to explain what extended reality is, okay? There's not any one unifying theory as to what XR is. XR is the acronym for extended reality. Two, I want to talk about how end users need to explore new technology as it emerges. A lot of times when technology is marketed a certain way, people find new and interesting ways to use that tech. Play-Doh wasn't always the children's toy. It was originally marketed as a way to remove coal residue in the 1930s. The Xbox Kinect, which you may or may not be aware of, was used in scientific research. The PlayStation 3, marketed for video games, was actually used as a networked processing engine to understand how proteins fold in scientific communities. So there is all sorts of interesting ways that we can use this tech. In particular, what's relevant for all of you who are all executives and decision makers is I've spent the last 4 years trying to figure out how to better create shared understanding among executives and decision makers using this tech. So let's get going. Let's see if I can get this right.
Colonel, if that doesn't work, you just yell slide in his direction.
Oh, they're going to build automatically. Okay. All right. So like all good ideas, I want to take you all the way back to a bar in 2021 in Washington, D.C. Now, you remember at the time, we were just getting out of COVID. We were kind of brushing off the dust, coming out of our caves. We had a vaccine, masks were coming off, restaurants were opening up, and travel started again. So naturally, I was based in Fort Leavenworth, and I was following around some general officers, and we found ourselves in D.C., going around the different contractors in the region, trying to figure out what innovations were taking place within the training sector of the Army. We did a lot of work. We saw a lot of really interesting stuff. I won't go on about what we were witnessing, but as the workday ended, we found ourselves at the Dubliner. I recommend it if you haven't ever been there, go. Delicious fish and chips. That evening, at about the second or third pint of Guinness, about the time the fish and chips were actually arriving, my boss told a story of his boss's boss of detailing how the Army was moving from where it was during the global war on terror to where it needs to be to fight threats, acute threats like Russia and pacing threats like China. As you can imagine, there's a strong leap from global war on terror to those large peer threats. What was happening is a bunch of general officers were going around Washington, D.C., and they were using two-dimensional maps to illustrate the complexity of that type of change, what decisions need to be made and what resources need to be allocated to get the Army from where it is to where it needs to be. They left a lot of those meetings really frustrated because they couldn't create shared understanding among civilian leadership. So that night, as the picture that was flashed up there of me earlier, I'm kind of a nerd, right? So I went back to my hotel and I had my computer up and I started working on an idea. I reached back to Fort Leavenworth to a couple of my fellow nerds to start coming up with an idea on a better way to create that shared understanding using the latest and greatest technology. So when we finally get back to Leavenworth, I meet up with a guy named Ben Sissel, who I'd contacted previously, and he handed me this device. And I took the device, and I walked down to my boss's office, and I knocked on the door. I said, "Boss, I have an idea." He said, "All right, come on in." So I walked in, and I actually have to pause there. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, it works. So I need to take you back in time a little bit further to give you a little bit of story as we move forward in this exploration of extended reality. The Army has a program called Advanced Civil Schooling. And what it is, it's an opportunity for officers like myself to go attend a civilian institution of our choosing to get a degree. In this case, I found myself in Indiana at Purdue to pursue a degree in modeling, simulation, and visualization. And what the Army wanted me to do as a simulations officer was to explore combat modeling. So think about parabolic arcs of artillery, or what it takes for a bullet to penetrate a concrete wall digitally. The stuff that simulations are used for Army war games. I was really excited, but at the time, unfortunately, that device right there came on the market. You may or may not recognize it. That's the Oculus Quest 1. And the Oculus Quest 1 was a revolutionary leap in extended reality technology. Let me pause there. Okay, extended reality. There's not any one unifying theory as to what that is, okay? Professionals in this field argue all the time, but what it is, we're going to use for the purposes of today, is extended reality is the term used to encompass augmented reality and virtual reality. Virtual reality is where you are fully immersed in a virtual environment. So when you take that headset, that virtual reality headset that's up there, and put it on your face, you are completely immersed in a digital world. The real world is blocked out. Augmented reality, on the other hand, is where you can see the real world. Like I'm looking at Scott right now. If I was wearing an augmented reality headset, I'd be looking at Scott and I'd be able to have digital content overlaid on top of the real world. Important distinction that we'll get into in a minute. The reason why this was so revolutionary at the time was that it cut the cord. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you see a guy on that Time magazine. This is about 2015. That's Palmer Luckey. He created the company called Oculus, now known as, it was absorbed by Meta. But at the time, he brought virtual reality from the idea to reality, because at that time, technology couldn't realize how virtual reality could be as immersive as it was. The only thing you didn't see, though, is that on that picture, he's got a cord coming off the back of his head, going off the screen, and what that's connected to is about a $3,000 computer. So it was really, really cool for a very, very small amount of people, only the people that can afford the computer to run the tech. Why the Oculus Quest 1 was so interesting is it cut the cord. So it made it affordable. It went from having a $3,000 computer to run the tech to being $299 and running on the same chipset that's on your cell phone today. When this thing came out and I put it on my headset, it was the first time I was truly immersed in a virtual environment. I was blown away by it because I could walk around this entire room if I wanted to, completely in a virtual world. So as I was looking at my books of combat modeling and looking at the books of the virtual reality headset, or looking at the virtual reality headset, guess what won? The headset. So I convinced my professors that let's not look at the books anymore. Let me explore this technology, because I thought it had real applications for training in the military. Now, unfortunately, these were some moving images where you can actually see some of the work that I did at Purdue. In this case, the upper right-hand corner was some artificial intelligence modeling decision trees for how to use those in a virtual environment. And the lower right-hand corner was working on the interfaces. Is there any way we can get those moving, or are they just solid images now?
Does it move?
I don't know if the preview recognizes.
Here's a PDF.
It's a PDF? Okay, yeah, so that's not gonna work. It's solid. I understand that the irony is not lost on me that I'm using PowerPoint to talk about better words. So we'll just have to hit the I believe button and move forward. Okay, so that was my education in Purdue. It was a really fun time. The one time in 20 years in the Army that I had a beard. Can we go next slide? I'm just gonna put this down. Okay, so let's go back to 2021. I'm at Fort Leavenworth. I'm at my boss's door with that device in my hand that we now know is an Oculus Quest 1 headset. And I said to him, I said, boss, we have this idea. You remember when the general officers were lamenting about not being able to communicate to their civilian leadership? Well, what we did is we ended up taking some doctrine, and Army doctrine is about what you would think it would be. It's boring, it's bland, it's wordy, it's dense. And then sometimes it's abstract. So how do you communicate something like Army doctrine to varied audiences of people not necessarily in uniform? Well, you can use augmented reality for it. or virtual reality. So if you look in the upper right-hand corner, that's a representation, a piece pulled right out of the Army Operations Doctrine. That's a representation, a 2D representation of something that's 3D, the domains and dimensions. The domains being land, sea, space, cyberspace, things like that. And then these dimensions overlaid on top of it. I won't go into too much detail about it, but the one point I want to make is that you're already at a disadvantage from creating shared understanding because your brain has to interpret the 2D into the 3D. So why don't we just move beyond that? And we don't have the moving image there. We just have the image of my hands. So basically what we did is we took that image and we made it into 3D and we skipped the step, right? Your brain, by creating digital content in augmented or virtual reality, you don't have to interpret the 2D to the 3D. You don't have to look at the PowerPoint slide and say that, hey, I think that might be better represented in 3D. It's there. And I'm sorry that that's not working. So I couldn't see my boss's eyes at the time because they were behind that headset. And I did see the creases of his mouth turn upward, and he got really giddy, and he said, "What do you need?" And I said, "Well, I need a team, and I need some resources. I need some money." And he said, "You got it." So if we go to the next slide. We found ourselves creating something called the Innovation Facility for the Combined Arms Center. And what it was founded on was a way to get after strategic messaging and share understanding for senior executives using technology like augmented reality and virtual reality. I mentioned that Army 2030 thing at the beginning, which was that difficult concept to convey. What we started to do was recreate what was in 2 dimensions and on maps, and we made it into augmented reality, right? So in that upper right-hand corner, you can start to see how we started overlaying Army concepts on top of digital terrain. And we did it using these things called a HoloLens 2. So this headset right here is true augmented reality, where you can see through the real world and digital content is overlaid on top of it. Now that's actually accomplished using something called spatial alignment, which is a really nerdy and technical term. In summary, what it does is the headset knows where it is in physical space, and all of the other headsets in the same room know where they are, so that if I were to take that image in the right-hand corner and plop it right down in the center, you can walk around it as if it were a real thing. It was a really interesting concept that worked out. In fact, it worked so well that in the lower right-hand corner, after about 2 months of development, we were told that we need to brief the Secretary of the Army. That's the Honorable Christine Warmuth there, and General Funk and General Martin, the Combined Arms Center commander and the Training and Doctrine commander, briefing Secretary of the Army for the 4th time, this time in augmented reality. As far as we know, this was the first time this was ever accomplished. Augmented reality and virtual reality was originally intended for video game and entertainment purposes, and we started leveraging it through exploration to create that shared understanding. No good deed goes unpunished though, right? So let's go next slide. When General Martin saw the success, saw the Honorable Christine Warmuth, Secretary of the Army's eyes light up while she was looking at the Army 2030 concept in augmented reality, General Martin declared that, hey, we're gonna do a combined arms seminar. I'm gonna invite 30 general officers and 110 other people, and you're gonna do the same thing to them. You're going to talk about Army 2030. Yes, sir. Yes, Roger, sir. We're going to figure it out. So immediately pulled the team together, again, through exploration. And there's actually a common theme with technology. Most of the time, technology, you need more power, more resolution, more fidelity. The experience becomes more immersive. And oftentimes, there's a step back, just like the Oculus Quest headset, where it was almost a regression. Let's stop with the power and the high-powered computers. Let's go back to the cell phone chipset. We did the same thing. So we went multimodal. We realized that there was an advantage to augmented reality, but when you're dealing with 110 people, you need to display the same data in different ways and give the audience a choice. So in that upper right-hand corner, you're seeing about 30 different general officers, some wearing headsets. And then you have a projection on the floor, which we built using 8 8 projectors on the ceiling, all beaming the same data down on the floor so that everyone else in the room who wasn't a general would be able to see the same data. So now that you have shared understanding beyond the people who are just wearing the headsets, you have everyone. We also had outstations. So again, it was about 110 people where we were beaming the same data through clients on screens and other floor projections. A phenomenal endeavor. The power of augmented reality can be seen in the upper right-hand corner, because when you start talking about those really difficult to grasp Army concepts, something like integrated air defense, think missiles that fly up to blow other missiles. You can see it in the news today. The Iron Dome in Israel is an example. Being able to visualize that in 3D on actual terrain can bring communities that wouldn't normally know what that is together to have meaningful discussions. The guy on the left standing up, that's General Francis from the Aviation Center of Excellence. There's an interesting story about a cocktail napkin and how to convey future aviation concepts through augmented reality. But I think I'm running out of time, so I'll skip that. And the images aren't moving, so it's going to be kind of, I believe, right? All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so lastly, I just want to sum up and talk a little bit about the future of this tech. I know that a lot of you are all senior executives, decision makers. Technology is very much in your wheelhouse. So I don't really need to foot stamp the idea that the rate of change of technology is exponential. It absolutely is. From 2018, when the Oculus Quest 1 came out, we're now in the 4th generation of that headset. It's the Quest 3S. Up there is the Quest 3. And I can't wait to see what the next 5 years brings. Because if we keep at this pace, pretty much these headsets are going to be in the form of glasses. And you as senior executives and decision makers don't need to worry about your Michael Dukakis moment when you put on the headset, and you'll be able to share it without the photo op. It's not just the training and doctrine area where we're using this tech either, right? We're also doing it in the operational realm. That thing in the center is called the IVAS. It's the Integrated Visual Augmentation System. We love our acronyms. And what that does is for the actual warfighter on the ground. It's the first use of augmented reality for fighting wars. And just a quick illustration of what this means for us. When I was in Belvoir touring with the general officers, I got to try this out. And I had a small handheld drone called the Black Hornet. And I launched it into the air and it flew about 1 kilometer to the north. And then I had a little picture-in-picture in the visor of what the drone was seeing. At the same time, we went through a urban warfare site, and my squad, I had the lead helmet, and I had brick walls to my right and left. And I looked to the left and I see a solid wall, but because the headset knew where I was in space and everyone else was in space, I could see the silhouettes of my other squad mates through the brick wall. So I had full situational awareness in an urban environment. It has its flaws, but the concept is there, and as it gets ironed out, it's going to make the modern warfighter truly lethal. And then the right-hand side, so yeah, it's not moving, I believe. We're going to continue to advance animations and models and figure out these practices and techniques that are going to make this technology mainstream for not only the Army, but for executives like yourselves. That bottom right-hand corner, anyone know what that is? ChatGPT. So there's no facet of my life, both personal and professional, that I'm not using a large language model like this. Not only is it helping me write my papers at War College, but an interesting thing that I did is that first slide that I had up about, or second slide that I had about Purdue, I took the code that took me 18 months at Purdue to write. And I used a series of prompts on ChatGPT, and in about 2 minutes, it gave me all the scripts, the code. It was more elegant, it was more efficient, it was optimized. And after about 30 minutes of me rigging it up in the application that I used, it did it better than I ever possibly could have. So the key point here is for us, artificial intelligence is kind of breaking down the barrier between the layperson and the expert. If you wanted to go out and code an app right now, you could use ChatGPT to do it without having to have 2 years of programming on your. And so with that, I'm probably over time. I appreciate you guys.
So Kyle, there's one question.
Yes, sir.
Relative to our other nation states that are out there, where is the United States military as compared to other nation states, given the issues that are in play?
So let's narrow that down just a little bit. So are we
Also,
talking
AI.
in AI? So take whatever I say with a grain of salt, and I understand this is probably Chatham House rules, right? Okay. I think China is probably outpacing us in the realm of artificial intelligence. And I use this just an anecdote. So at the War College, right, when we sat down in my staff group, which is about 16 individuals, not a single other one of my peers had used ChatGPT, for example. Okay. That's just kind of like a small sample of the exposure that America's Army is to the use of AI models. Now, there are pockets of people using it all over the Army, but we're very slow to catch up on just the basic usage of what's available on open source right now. The way that certain units are using artificial intelligence, it's making targeting much easier, much quicker. But what I think China is doing is their entire population is being exposed and using it. There are barriers for artificial intelligence being used in the defense sector right now. I'll give you an example. The War College has a very open policy on the use of artificial intelligence. You can use it as much as you want for all the papers you want to write. You just have to cite it. Converse to that, the Command and General Staff College down at Leavenworth has an anti-usage policy for artificial intelligence. So take that for what you will, sir.
How do you ensure the confidentiality of sensitive and otherwise classified information when you're interacting with open source AI?
You only use unclassified material, and there's always a risk that there's classification through compilation. But once it's actually input, if you upload a PDF to ChatGPT or one of the other models out there, it's there, it's open. So the Army is leveraging ChatGPT-like models, agents that are trained on Army-specific data, and they're closing them off from networks. So that would be about the only way you could use it.
Does that explain why Leavenworth is like the next level up that they're concerned about?
No, because Leavenworth, Command and General Staff College is mostly unclassified, just like the War College. I think, again, Chatham House rules, and this is an opinion, right? Not necessarily representative of the U.S. Army. I think it's easier for the professors at the Command and General Staff College to grade and grade papers, grade tests when ChatGPT models, AI models are just not allowed, right? Because I don't know if any of you all have played around with those models or not and asked it to write a paper or an email. It does it in a much more eloquent way than I ever could. For a student, for a professor grading a student on their ability to write, that's difficult. So we have this discussion a lot, right? So the question was, do you need that skill? Do you need that skill to write? We have a really extensive reading load at the War College. Every night there's about 100 pages to read, and you can take PDFs, the PDFs of the reading, and you can upload them in the ChatGPT and say, give me a summary. Or you can log into Notebook LM, which is a Google product, and it'll summarize it. It will give you study notes. It can write essays on it. It even can do a 2-person podcast that's indistinguishable from humans doing a podcast. What I've experienced, though, is that my understanding of the subject matter when I read it word for word versus when I have it summarized in ChatGPT is my understanding is less, right? I didn't do the legwork. I didn't do the footwork. So my understanding of the topic isn't as great. For senior executives, you guys are all probably well-versed in reading summaries and driving on from there. It's a little bit more difficult for myself. So.
have a token of our appreciation. This is our four-way test, which you might have heard of before. We all recited it. And this is pretty heavy, so it can hold actual papers if you use that. Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Sean, slide real quick. We're just gonna page through this right quick. We did that. Keep going. Next luncheon, next Monday, descendants of the old 8th Ward, that's hard to say. We have the Tuesday and Thursday of next week, we'll be participating in decorating our tree at the Salvation Army during the day. Club Brother has details. And then Thursday night, being at the actual celebration. December 2nd, Dauphin County Library, our very own Ryan's going to be speaking to us. December 4th, great event, holiday wine exchange at the Country Club of Harrisburg. Don't miss it. Friends, spouses, and yes, John Hickey, significant others, yes. And then holiday luncheon on the 16th. And I just wanted, real quick, I know we're running short on time, just wanted to let you guys know that this kind of 2 lunch minimum model per month is going quite well. It's helping us keep costs down, helping us keep dues in check, and we're trying to complement it with additional creative ways to serve during the week. We're looking at doing some weekend stuff. We got a grant project coming up next year. And anytime you come to a service on a Monday, still a lunch event too. So